As the birthplace of British railway preservation, Wales is now home to a number of very different steam railways. We start this programme on the coast at Porthmadog, from where the narrow gauge Ffestiniog Railway winds its way up into the mountains.
Behind the beautiful harbour at Porthmadog is the Ffestiniog Railway station, where regular daily services run to Ffestiniog, 13.5 miles away. The Ffestiniog Railway Company was formed in 1832 to bring slate down from the quarries. The line closed in 1946, but in 1982 the whole line was reopened for passengers. Here, on a bright summer's morning, Linda, a 240 saddle tank and tender locomotive, prepares to take the first train of the day up to Ffestiniog.
Built by Hunslet in 1893, Linda worked most of her life in the Penrhyn quarries. Her tender was added upon her arrival at the Ffestiniog. Arriving at Minforth is Mountaineer, a 262 tank engine built by the American Locomotive Company in 1917. The railway owns a variety of locomotives, and the gauge is 1 foot 11.5 inches. Leaving Minforth, the railway soon begins to climb, the line twisting through the forest towards the station at Tanyllyn. High above the valley, the train approaches Thiat and one of the technical marvels of the railway. Here, part of the original track bed had been flooded as a new power station was built at Tanyllyn. The Ffestiniog's engineers had to plan the new line in an open spiral in order to gain height and climb around the reservoir. This is Britain's only open spiral. It can be clearly seen as double Fairley, Mer than Emrys, runs into the loop on its descent to Porthmadog. Having completed a turn of 360 degrees, Mer than Emrys finally runs into the diminutive station at Thiat. Higher up the valley, at the summit of the line, we catch Earl of Merioneth. She was built in 1979, exactly 100 years after her sister Mer than Emrys. These unusual double Fairleys are the Ffestiniog's most famous locomotives. But for most visitors, the main attraction is a stunning mountain backdrop. At last, we reach Ffestiniog, where the Mountaineer takes on water before running round a train and departing once more for Porthmadog. The Welsh Highland Railway is also based in Porthmadog, with a station at the western edge of the town. When the Welsh Highland was opened in 1923, it was the longest narrow gauge railway in Wales.
The line closed in 1937, but 40 years later, enthusiasts raised enough money to buy the old slate exchange sidings, giving them a centre from which the railway could progress along its old track bed. Track was relayed, locomotives were purchased, coaches were built, and at last, in 1980, the Welsh Highland Railway was back in business.
Today, trains operate along only 3/4 of a mile of track, but there are ambitious plans to restore the entire 22 miles of line between Porthmadog and Dinas. Passenger trains are run by a variety of small tank locomotives. Russell, a 262 side tank, was built by Hunslet in 1906 and is the only surviving locomotive from the original Welsh Highland Railway. the line comes to its temporary terminus, and Russell runs around a train before returning to Porthmadog. After a slow start, the new Welsh Highland Railway is finally moving forwards with confidence. And while passengers are given a taste of the old line, there's also the promise of dramatic future developments. Between Corwyn and Dolgelly is the small town of Bala. Here, between the dark mountains of Meirionydd, the waters of the Dee have spread to fill the steep valley floor, creating the largest natural lake in Wales.
In 1868, a new standard gauge railway linked the industrial border towns with the Cambrian coast at Barmouth. Forging their way up the Dee Valley, the trains skirted the waters of Bala Lake before climbing over the high pass to Dolgelly. In 1965, the line was closed. A local engineer provided the impetus to rebuild the lakeside section as a narrow-gauge tourist line.
Prepared for service today is Maid Marian. This 1903 Hunslet spent much of its life high up on the Dinorwic village branch. Withdrawn in 1964, Maid Marian then worked on the Llanberis Lake Railway before transfer to Bala in 1975. The 040 saddle tank has seen regular service here ever since. The line begins at the southern end of the lake and runs for 4.5 miles to its terminus at Penabont, only half a mile from Bala's town centre. The new tourist line has been built to the 1 foot 11 5/8 of an inch gauge and was opened to passengers in 1972, although it took a further 4 years to complete track laying to Penabont. For the whole of its length, the line stays close to the lake, and passengers pass through scenery that never fails to delight. Bala station is currently at Penabont, although the Railway Society eventually hopes to bring trains closer to the town centre. Having reached the end of the line, Maid Marian must prepare for the return journey. So the lamps are moved, she runs round her train, and Maid Marian sets off once again for a trip along the lake. At Llanberis, another narrow gauge railway runs for 2 miles along the shores of Lake Pardown, an area dominated by Snowdon, the highest mountain in Wales.
The Llanberis Lake Railway starts at the historic Dinorwic Quarry Workshops, now part of the National Museum of Wales. Here, Elidir, a bright red saddle tank, runs light engine between the sheds and the main station, where there's a train to be made up. Hunslet delivered the locomotive to the Dinorwic quarries in 1889, where it worked until 1957. It stood rusting for 12 years until purchased and restored by the Lake Railway. Departing the station amidst clouds of steam, the train runs down the yard and out onto the original track bed of the 4-foot gauge Fairbourne Railway, which once carried slate and passenger trains to Port Dinorwic.
The Fairbourne Railway closed in 1961, but rails and locomotives from the old quarry were used to build the new line, which opened in 1971. Almost immediately, the trains run out along the lake, inviting comparisons between the merits of wind and steam. The end of the line for the Lake Railway is here at Talyllyn, where Elidir is uncoupled from the front of the train and runs round in preparation for the return journey. Llanberis is also the starting point for an unusual railway which climbs right to the summit of Snowdon.
Rising to over 3,500 feet, Snowdon has attracted generations of visitors. Once, the only way to the top was the hard way, on foot. But the Victorian love for adventure and railway building resulted in the formation of the Snowdon Mountain Tramroad and Hotels Company. And since 1896, the only rack and pinion railway in Great Britain has transported people in comfort and safety from the shores of Lake Pardown to the barren heights of Snowdon itself.
The railway has 7 steam locomotives, the first being delivered in 1895. All operate to the apt rack system, with double-bladed racks offset for safety and strength. We see the principle being demonstrated on a single rack, which is used in the sidings. The pinions engage with the rack teeth and are the only form of power transmission, the running wheels rotating freely on the 2 axles. The point work differs from standard adhesion practice, as it has to allow for the switching of the rack as well as the running surfaces. Here we can see how that is achieved in a single movement. Locomotive number 4 is ready for service and couples up to a coach full of passengers before tackling the lower section of the line. This compact 042 tank locomotive was built in Switzerland almost 100 years ago. But even on these gradients, averaging 1 in 7.8, it still proves its worth. At Hebron Station, one of the 3 passing places on the line, number 4 has entered the loop, awaiting the arrival of number 7. With the authority of the blockman, number 7 continues to pound its way towards the summit. Although the mainstay of motive power is steam, the railway wanted the flexibility and economy of diesel locomotives. So, Hunslet were asked to build 2 320 horsepower 4-wheel diesels, which entered service in 1986. Diesel number 9, descending to Llangollen, must pass the station loop before a patient number 4 can continue on to the summit. This is a busy mountain, and train movements between sections are controlled by blockmen with overall train control directed by radio from Llanberis.
The summit gained, passengers are free to get off and to mingle with the walkers amid the barren rocks. All share this magnificent panorama, until number 7 is ready to carry the passengers down again.
Throughout the summer, mainline steam trains regularly ply the North Wales coast. Today, Talyllyn, locomotive number 777, steams in the yards at Crewe in preparation for a special train to Holyhead. Talyllyn was built for the Southern Railway by the North British Locomotive Company in 1925 and is now part of the collection housed at the National Railway Museum in York. At 9:53, Talyllyn departs for Holyhead, and 2 hours later is pulling out over the estuary by Llandudno Junction to run beneath the immense battlements of Conwy Castle. From mainline to miniature, as we visit Aberystwyth and the Conwy Vale Railway Museum.
The main attraction here is the 1¼ mile steam-hauled miniature railway with beautifully made 5th scale working locomotives running on an amazingly sophisticated 7¼ inch gauge track. These detailed little steam locomotives are a delight to watch. They require all the usual attention to fueling and watering, and each can haul 20 to 30 passengers. The line runs round a 4½ acre site with a colour light signal and token systems, providing the capacity to operate 3 trains at any one time. Next, we head for the coastal town of Llandudno and a mountain climbing tramway. The town has been a holiday resort since Victorian times and is dominated by the Great Orme. This high dome of rock attracted so many visitors that in 1902 a tramway was opened to convey them to the summit. Today, still in its original form, the Great Orme Tramway climbs the steep and narrow streets at the sedate speed of 5 miles an hour.
The journey to the summit, however, is made in 2 stages. Each section of the line is a separate funicular with a fixed winding motor and counterbalanced cars. The weight of the descending car helps to pull its partner up the hill. The lower section of the line is a paved tramway laid along a steep and winding street where a tram can meet other vehicles and must be able to stop. This section rises 400 feet with an average gradient of 1 in 6, although the steepest part is in fact 1 in 4. The cable is concealed in a deep conduit slot. The overhead wire was originally used for communication, but this has recently been replaced by a sophisticated radio system. Here is the winding gear in action on the very heavy cable. Each cable has a braking strength of 60 ton, 12 times the maximum possible load. As number 5 begins a descent, it is assisting the winding mechanism in pulling number 4 up the steep section lower down. Number 5 approaches the loop when number 4 passes safely, before continuing its journey towards the halfway station. Our next stop is at Llangollen, a busy market town on the River Dee. There's been a railway in Llangollen since 1862, but the 4 miles of line between the town and Deeside Halt are all that remain of a line which once ran all the way to Barworth. In the yard outside the sheds, the engines are being prepared for their day's work. Foxcott Manor, number 7822, the Great Western Railway's 460 locomotive, will be providing the motive power for the first train of the day. Elsewhere in the yard, Burtonwood Brewer, a Kitson 060 saddle tank, simmers in the early morning light. Fully prepared for its day's work, Foxcott Manor departs the yard and heads for the station. Having collected its coaches from the overnight stabling point, number 7822 then runs round the train ready for departure.
On leaving Llangollen station, the line follows the course of the River Dee. Having crossed the river, the line climbs up to Fairbourne, the first station from Llangollen and some 2 miles away. At Fairbourne, the black and white timbered station building stands on a rocky ledge, giving a good view of the river and the well-known chain bridge. The train arriving at Fairbourne is the Sunday lunch special, known as the Fairbourne Bell.
Departure from Fairbourne is on a steep incline, and Foxcott Manor must work hard to gain momentum on the slope. The continuing incline curves around through the forest, leading eventually to the Fairbourne Tunnel. At 689 yards, this is one of the longest single-bore tunnels in railway preservation. Emerging from the tunnel, the line again curves above the River Dee. All trains presently terminate here at Deeside Halt, but there are plans to extend the line to Corwin in the near future. Meanwhile, back at Llangollen station, number 5459 arrives with its rake of coaches ready for the day's work. Every Sunday from Easter to the end of September, the railway operates 2 trains. As number 5459 prepares for departure, Foxcott Manor arrives at Fairbourne station on its return trip to Llangollen. Number 5459 finally gets the all clear and departs Llangollen station amidst clouds of smoke and steam. Foxcott Manor, having descended the incline from Fairbourne, swings over the Dee Bridge and approaches the passing loop on the outskirts of Llangollen station. The passing manoeuvre completed, number 5459 is cleared to make his ascent towards Fairbourne.
Amongst the rolling sand dunes of Cardigan Bay, we find the Fairbourne and Barmouth Railway. The line was once owned by a Mr. McDougall, who's perhaps more famous for his self-raising flour. In 1916, the original horse-drawn trams gave way to a 15-inch miniature steam railway. In 1983, the bankrupt railway was purchased by pop musician John Ellerton, who rebuilt the line to its present gauge of 12¼ inches. By 1990, it was voted the best private railway in Wales.
The 2 locomotives in service today are Yeo and Sherpa. Yeo is a replica of the famous Manning Wardle engines that ran on the Linton and Barnstable line in Devon. Sherpa, resplendent in authentic light blue livery, is a replica of the famous Darjeeling and Himalayan engines. From the station at Fairbourne, next to the British Rail Station, the line runs alongside the road before sweeping out across the sand dunes to its terminus in the Madach estuary. The railway has its own locomotive works, and to celebrate their centenary, they designed and built number 24. Traditionally styled but incorporating all the latest technology, the railway claims this to be the most powerful minimum gauge locomotive in the world. The very birthplace of railway preservation is here at Talyllyn, the starting point of the 7.5-mile long 2-foot 3-inch gauge Talyllyn Railway. As with the majority of Welsh narrow gauge railways, the original line was built in 1864 to convey slate from the quarries high up the valley to the main line at Talyllyn. The slate industry declined, but in 1950, the Talyllyn Railway Preservation Society assumed responsibility for the line. Today, slate has been replaced with people, with modern-day traffic consisting almost entirely of visitors. This morning's first train is headed by number 4, an 042 saddle tank built by Kerr Stewart in 1921. On this occasion, she bears the livery of one of the famous Thomas the Tank Engine characters, Peter Sam.
Six and a half miles further up the valley, Peter Sam arrives at Aberystwyth station. The station has undergone many modifications and alterations, but now boasts what is thought to be the longest narrow gauge platform in Britain. Leaving Aberystwyth, the railway follows a hillside ledge above the valley floor as it heads on up into the mountains. For 25 years, all trains terminated at Aberystwyth. But in 1976, the largely voluntary labourers pushed an extension along the original track bed to Llangollen. There's no road leading to the station, and walkers use the railway for access to the many forest trails that start from here. One of the most photographed stations on the line is here at Dolgoch. Locomotive number 1, Talyllyn, arrives at the station, passing the original old wood and slate water tower. A new steel water tower is used today to replenish the tanks before Talyllyn heads up the line.
Built in 1864, Talyllyn is still a hard-working and reliable engine, a tribute to the engineering skills of another age. Between Dolgellau and Machynlleth sits the small village of Corris. Here, in an area steeped in railway history, the slate industry is still very much alive. The original railway line was opened in 1859, consisting of a horse-drawn tramway running between Aberystwyth and Llanberis. This was upgraded to passenger carrying standards by 1883. Today, the Corris Railway Society are busy relaying and repairing the track between Maespoeth engine shed and the museum site, a total length of 3/4 of a mile. Their hopes are to return the railway to its former glory and once more to carry passengers in steam-hauled trains along this picturesque valley. Southwest of Corris, we find the coastal resort of Aberystwyth. The town, with its royal pier and fine old buildings, lies between two headlands, and Constitution Hill boasts an electric cliff railway which will carry visitors high above the streets to give commanding views out over Cardigan Bay. The system is cable-hauled and counterbalanced, with the weight of the descending car helping to pull the ascending car up the hill. Our last railway, also in Aberystwyth, is the Vale of Rheidol. The imposing British rail station is both a terminus for mainline trains which travel the Cambrian coast route and for the ex-British Rail narrow gauge line to the Devil's Bridge. Inside the original Great Western steamshed, preparations for the day's service are already well underway, as the oil burners are lit and the footplate men wait for steam. Number 7, Owain Glyndwr, emerges from the sheds. This 262 tank engine was built in 1923 by the Great Western Railway Company and proudly bears the name of the medieval prince who is still revered as a hero of Welsh nationalism.
The railway served the lead mines and timber traffic of the Rheidol Valley. And to save money, it was built to the narrow gauge of only 1 foot 11.5 inches. But these locomotives are far from small. They weigh just over 25 tons each and are more than 8 feet wide. They had the distinction of being both the last narrow gauge and the last steam trains to be operated by British Rail.
The journey from Aberystwyth to the Devil's Bridge takes approximately an hour and passes through some magnificent scenery. Climbing high above the valley floor, the splendid views provided by the train can be appreciated to the full. Devil's Bridge, and journey's end for passengers on the Vale of Rheidol. The train has climbed 680 feet in less than 12 miles. But there's no time to rest. Uncoupling and running round the train, Owen Glyndwr has still to tackle the return journey to Aberystwyth.